And that's what's interesting too is over the years, you don't have to do anything wrong to get sued. The amount of frivolous lawsuits that we see, high number, probably 30%. It used to be even higher. What I'm seeing now is that it's not as high because there are a lot of things going wrong in transactions. I don't know if agents aren't as diligent.
After 5 years of RETSY, you could probably just go take the bar and pass it. Catch me if you can.
There you go. There you go.
How did you pass the bar? He's like, I took it. I studied for it and took it. Today on the RETSY podcast, we have Lisa Robinson with Pinnacle Insurance. So Lisa's not only RETSY's insurance go-to, but she has decades and decades of experience in representing real estate brokerages and businesses and insurance, E&O, D&O, all the different types of policies that a brokerage needs to have to protect themselves and their agents. But it's a great episode. She digs in on some of the more recent lawsuits and insurance claims that we're seeing out there. I hope you enjoy this episode, and I'll introduce Lisa.
Welcome to the RETSY podcast. Today we are sitting down with Lisa Robinson from Pinnacle Insurance Consultants. Lisa, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here with you guys.
Well, we appreciate your time. So you and I met through a broker networking, we call it a broker network.
Yeah.
And we started working together, and you are an expert in all things E&O insurance.
I am.
So we appreciate you coming in to talk to us about that.
Absolutely. It's an interesting topic. I'm sure everybody's just so anxious to chomping at the bit to talk about E&O insurance.
For those of you listening in, that's errors and omissions insurance.
There you go.
That's when an agent does a really good job, but they omit something by accident, not on purpose. Having good agents is a huge part of it that are experienced, know what they're doing, and look out for each other. Having Matthew as that barrier of protection. And then also having amazing attorneys like Michael and Rick.
Absolutely.
They're so great at giving advice when something is kind of outside the knowledge base in his head, which is a pretty large knowledge base.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
Yeah, I would credit our attorneys more than me, because if I'm ever unsure about something, we're picking up the phone and we're talking to an attorney, and we're making darn sure that we're doing the right thing for our clients.
Right. After 5 years of RETSY, you could probably just go take the bar and pass it. Catch me if you can.
There you go. There you go.
How did you pass the bar? He's like, I took it. I studied for it and took it. Do you remember that from Catch Me If You Can?
Yeah.
Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio.
I don't know about that, but
I don't know. You've got a lot of legal hours under your belt, so
that's amazing. That's really it's really important when it comes to E&O insurance, and because you don't always see that. And I've been in the real estate E&O space for over 30 years, and I have never been so busy as we have in the last 2 years dealing with claims and risk management issues, and the amount of claims and litigation and coverage questions we field, and unusual circumstances because it's litigious, and your business is changing. Mm-hmm. And you guys, you go into different things, and when you're dealing with that as a firm, you talk to your CPA, you talk to your attorney, and you talk to your insurance broker, because that's part of the risk management and shifting that risk. Do I have coverage? Do I not? We care about our coverage, but we care more about, that's not covered. Now I've got to manage that risk internally and deal with those issues that we're exposed to, an uncovered claim. Yep. So it's incredibly litigious out there.
Yeah.
And,
Well, and that's why good brokerages have solid policies and protections and stuff in place. I mean, I know you probably see it all, but I mean, you have the cut rate ones and the ones that want to do the lowest cost per file, and and they don't really realize as an agent with a brokerage, it's like the policy your brokerage carries. Because here's the thing, you can be a perfectionist, but you're going to make a mistake someday.
Absolutely.
So
and that's what's interesting too is over the years you don't have to do anything wrong to get sued. The amount of frivolous lawsuits that we see, high number, probably 30%. It used to be even higher. what I'm seeing now is that, it's not as high because there are a lot of things going wrong in transactions. I don't know if agents aren't as diligent, but you don't have to do anything wrong to get sued. And the reality is it's going to cost money to defend out of that.
Yep.
Even though you didn't do anything wrong. How frustrating is that?
Yeah.
You got great agents and you do everything right. Let's get them to that point. The rest is just, all right, have your documentation and we'll defend out. We'll get dismissed. It might cost some money, but we didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
What do you think the craziest E&O claim that you've seen, and how many years have you been doing this now?
I've been over 30 years, I think, in the real estate E&O space. We see all sorts of crazy claims, and what we get is our involvement is the initial demand letter lawsuit, and you try to read all that. It's like, what in the world is going on? And then it's assigned to counsel, and we really don't, know the outcome. That's when, our attorneys are talking about the actual claim. And then we'll see on the loss run, but we don't always know the details. But I have to say a lot of the unusual claims are property management, some tenant allegation. I mean, you get crazy stuff. Like we had one and it's like, I sell insurance. You wouldn't think insurance is an emergency, right?
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised that I got to talk to you now. And this case was a situation where a tenant had vacated the property, and the property manager went into the property just to walk through. And it was all cleared out, but there was a bottle of medication in the fridge. And the property manager threw it out, and it turned out it was like life-saving medication.
Oh, no, yeah.
And they're calling us, asking us what to do. It's like, I don't know. But,
yeah.
yeah, and we had another one these are just wild. They're not particularly big, but it's just crazy, where it's alleged that the property manager told the tenant they could sell the furniture that the owner owned in the house. I mean, is this for real? So those are some great.
What we call
We see it all.
inexperienced real estate
We
agent.
see it all.
Yeah, I mean, what's funny is we see it all the time too. I mean, the number of times I've had to educate an outside agent of like, you can't do that, or you can't say that, you can't sell that. But I mean, like property management, I mean, that's a whole different animal.
Well, it is. I know you guys don't do it, but it's when you
why
talk
we
about
don't do
wild
it.
and
We don't
crazy.
do it.
That's why you don't do it.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's why we don't do it.
And those claims are. Thank you very much. Those claims are. They're crazy. I mean, I'd love to get into the top claims we see, because that's really where you want to kind of see what we're seeing, but they're all crazy these days.
Nobody lighting houses on fire on purpose, or
No, I haven't seen that. I mean, it's always alleged, right? Just just the situation we were talking about. So,
what do you think you've seen as the biggest claim paid out on any insurance policy, and what caused it?
So we had back, it was probably 10 years ago, we had a firm that had 2 policy limits claims, potential payout, from a rogue agent that was, I think that it was something with a builder. I don't remember the exact circumstances. It's been so long, but he was the exclusive agent and was doing something he wasn't supposed to do. It was rogue. And so $2 million policy limit claims, which was going to erode their aggregate limit. We had another situation where a firm had told the agent that they couldn't, it was something to do with subdividing land, and they were told not to do it. You can't do it. Agent did it anyways. And it was because it was several owners of the property. It again was policy limits. And it was going to be above that. And so if you don't have enough limit, you're exposed as a broker.
Yeah.
And the broker had to secure her separate counsel to protect her personal interests above that. So that was unusual. You don't usually see, those types of claims, but that certainly is a trend that we're seeing now is whereas the real estate and E&O claims used to be high frequency, low severity. So number of claims was high, we always have a lot of claims, but they're not big claims.
Yeah, it's for a dishwasher.
Yeah,
or like
yeah. I mean, the average might be, you put attorney's fees in $30,000 to $50,000 is what I would typically see on a loss run. In the last year, the indemnity payments have increased from like $47,000 on average to they've increased significantly, and the number of six-figure claims over $100,000 that I see on loss runs in the last year, I've never seen those numbers.
And all those brokerages are causing our prices to go up, essentially.
No,
how can you not expect it? I mean, you have one broker managing 17,000 knuckleheads out there running around doing whatever they want with no supervision, no training, no experience. It's like,
well, they're gonna get hit when you're talking about claims six figures. The premium's got to support that. The loss ratio is your losses over your premium, and they want a 50% loss ratio. And you see these claims on small firms. And so it is significantly impacting underwriting and pricing on these policies. So when when you're clean, underwriters love it.
Yeah.
So it's what we're seeing now, and that's being driven really by these plaintiffs' attorneys that are really aggressive. And I don't know if Michael Orcutt, has talked to you. I've heard Rick talk about it, and they're just aggressive in demanding large outcomes and won't back off.
Yeah.
So it's
you just take it to court then.
Yeah.
You guys probably try.
It's going to cost a lot of money. But. Well, the carriers do, and that's one of the conversations that that we have is, I hear the attorneys talk about it, and we do now. It's you don't do anything wrong. It's the principle, but does it make sense?
Yeah.
To fight something, if you have a $5,000 issue, you didn't do anything wrong. Do you just throw something at it to make it go away? Or are you going to go through the litigation process, which is going to take how long? These things sit on the loss runs for 3 years. How much is it going to cost in attorney's fees? Probably minimum of 25 to 30 without going to trial. If you go to trial, it's going to be a whole lot of money. How much time does it take of your time, of your agent's time? How much does it bring the agent down who's fighting that in his business? It's now we're at the point, throw them $2,500 and just walk away. You're going to be better off.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's tough, but
you got to get past your ego of no.
Yeah. Well, when you guys look at it, do you want on your loss run $2,500?
Yeah.
Or do you want, we had to spend $50,000 on that because we had to litigate and go through the process and we paid damages. You're going to settle. When you mediate, you're probably going to give something up.
Yeah.
What's better for us and the agent in the long run?
Yeah.
Cost less, it's going to, impact you far less with increase in premium, increase in deductible, the time. You're probably going to be better off in the long run.
Yeah.
I'd love to dive into some E&O myths. What E&O myths out there would you like to dispel for the audience?
Well, thank you I love to talk about that. I don't often get the opportunity because it just depends on the audience, but there is a myth out there that you hear, and I think you guys can relate to this, where there's that people in the real estate industry, be it agents or brokers, I've got E&O, I'm covered, right?
Yeah.
Do you hear?
Yeah.
Something goes wrong, what does your agent say? Well, we got E&O.
Yeah.
That's the first go-to. Well, guess what? Have you ever read an insurance policy? I'm sure you have not. But I can assure you it doesn't say, don't worry, you're covered.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a lot of exclusions.
There's conditions, exclusions, limitations, all the things it's not picking up. And the reality is, number one, all right, there's other policies you need. E&O is just, it covers you, like you said, Chris, an error omission when you're rendering real estate professional services and someone is financially damaged. It's going to cost money. All right, that's the key. That's all it covers. right? General liability. We see general liability claims all day long. General liability coverage is if your agent's negligent, resulting in third-party bodily injury, property damage. Someone's injured, there's third-party property, direct physical damage to that property. We see those claims all day long. Cyber is a whole thing. And you know what? You know how many policies, a homeowner's policy, a general liability policy, any policy that I would probably look at is going to say, oh, we cover cyber. They don't give any type of meaningful cyber coverage. You need a separate cyber policy. So there's a little confusion there because E&O will say they cover cyber. They give bare bones. If there's a breach of personal information, they might pay for defense costs. They might pay notification costs. I hope we have the opportunity to talk about cyber today because the exposures that you guys have is so significant. It's probably more significant than your E&O claims, which is significant. So you've got other policies, directors and officers coverage that, some of the antitrust issues were D&O. You've got employment practices, lots of other policies. You've got other policies. Every E&O policy, real estate E&O is very different from other policies. Homeowners insurance, auto, work comp, pretty much the same, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to vary greatly. Yeah, you're going to get some extensions of coverage. Real estate E&O is so different between carriers. And what I like to do is we go out as a broker, we shop our clients. We represent our clients, so we go out and shop the market. Then we lay these quotes side by side, so you're seeing your limits, deductible, premium. But we're drilling down on coverage that firms need. Fair housing, environmental, mold, sale of agent-owned transactions. That's a huge thing. Every policy is different. Business brokering, construction development, it's all different. So you have to, walk through that. There's exclusions that, we were talking about the exclusions in the policy, right? Commission disputes are excluded. Fraud's excluded. Violations of law, TCPA, if we talk about claims, Telephone Consumer Protection Act, those are uncovered claims. Copyright, when you have the photo infringement, if your agent uses a photo that he's sitting over there, that's not covered under E&O.
Yeah.
So there's exclusions within that policy where they're not intending to pick that up. So, that's where you have to dispel that myth because, you've got to be aware of your exposures and your coverage and what policies you need and what's excluded. And we often get asked, the question, I had a question about lockbox coverage, which is pretty innocuous coverage. But it's like they weren't using, this was in another state, they weren't using the, standard lockbox, the Supra, whatever. Yeah. They were using a contractor lockbox. And they weren't using it to show. They were using it to let contractors in and stuff like that.
Sure.
And so the lockbox coverage says it needs to be used when you're showing property. So is there coverage when he's letting contractors in? You don't know, right?
Yeah.
And so then the question is, well, can I get a writer for that? We're always asked about writers.
Yeah.
Get a writer. And,
That's where it takes like a good insurance agent. And I know when we chatted, we were like, we got to get you on the podcast because, it reflects on our agents. It reflects on our clients knowing that they're protected. We're protected. Right. But
yeah.
Like you brought up a lot of things like cyber that RETSY's adding and then or added or whatever. And the D&O policy.
D&O, yeah.
Like when that whole commission antitrust lawsuit hit, I was like, we have insurance for everything, right? And we looked at all four of these insurance policies and somehow that just slid in as a D&O policy that we didn't have. So we were big enough to get named in the lawsuit, which sucked, but
it was flattering too.
It was flattering. Yeah, it was flattering.
There's a little bit of that
but
too.
Then I look
get
at
it.
all these other brokerages named next to us. I'm like, those guys are doing that. RETSY agents don't do this. And, me being me, I'm like, I did not back down. Like, they came at us, and I hired Greenberg, and we came right back at them.
Good for you, yeah.
And hindsight 2020 probably just should have sat on our hands like all the other brokerages in the Valley did, and eventually NAR settled. But,
Right.
like, that's not how we operate. Like, we don't back down,
Yeah.
And, but after you and I sat down, I'm like, okay, what other gaping holes do we need to add to protect our agents?
Right. Well, and that was that was one of the worst times in my life, going through that with the real estate industry. That was just almost devastating. I had firms, the large firms that you didn't know what the outcome of that was, and some of them were not included in the settlement.
Yep.
And the reality is that directors and officers coverage, the D&O, is not typically, private companies don't always buy it and don't think they need to buy it. But the reality is that, yes, there are some types of claims that you're not a publicly traded company. Those guys are going to have directors and officers insurance. But the private companies, a lot of them don't. And, there's always the conversation about you should, if there's vendor issues, if there's a tortious interference claim, can you find that under D&O? If you're going to find it anywhere, it's D&O. And D&O is more about how you run your business, when someone comes against you because of how you run your business.
Yeah.
So most people didn't have it. That was the one place that you could find coverage for the antitrust. And I spend a lot of time now placing that coverage, not just for real estate firms. I work with a lot of the state and local associations because they were brought in and they had certain insurance issues. And so that's a real thing. And, looking at their D&O and their cyber and, their management liability lines. It's, I will say, and I think I might have mentioned it when we met, that I've seen a real change in risk tolerance with broker owners and how they buy their insurance, and increasing limit and buying coverage that I never would have expected that they would have gone out and done, because seeing what we went through, and it's not over.
Yeah.
It's still out there. You just see, how litigious it is. And I saw a class action lawsuit. One of my insureds in, I think it was New York, that was named in a class action lawsuit on cyber. Think about that.
Wow.
The breaches, are these attorneys going to jump on that?
Oh, anything they can sue anybody
Anything,
for.
exactly.
They find that token person that'll be the class.
Yeah. So,
and then, it's just brutal.
yeah,
And
wonder what that token person gets to be the
what
class.
do you think that was? Yeah. I mean, we broke that thing down, like, on our one. It's like the guy essentially said he didn't know what he was paying in commission, but then turned around and used that same agent to buy.
Yeah.
Did that plaintiff?
Masiello.
Was it Masiello? Did you do a deal?
Oh yeah, I
Oh,
just
you're
did
one of
it.
the lucky.
Yeah,
Oh
The
my
more I
gosh.
think about it, the more it pisses me off. But, like, it's just greedy attorneys. It really is.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Tort reform.
Who's that guy suing now? Like, isn't he suing
Masiello?
Zillow? Or?
No,
he doing the
the
Zillow
firm.
one, or?
Are you talking about Catchmark attorneys?
Yeah.
Zillow, I thought was I don't know.
Yep.
Everybody's getting sued.
Yeah.
You just look at the industry news, and it's like, oh, listen to this one now. There's one that came in today. I won't say which one, or yesterday, I think.
So what can a brokerage do to protect themselves on that, other than having great education, educating their agents through meetings, podcasts, Zoom calls, all that stuff? What can they do to protect themselves more?
From an E&O standpoint?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's really kind of getting back to the basics. I think we used to be pretty diligent in doing that. And I think just with the craziness of everything. It's kind of, we've gotten away from that. But some of the things that that I consider for best practices in staying out of trouble, and this is also super important from an E&O standpoint, the underwriting standpoint, because when I'm going through a renewal, all right, we're looking at the claims with the underwriters, right? And I'll try to get when I put a submission in front of an underwriter, I'm going to tell them about the firm and how wonderful they are. Like, I'm not going to just send a RETSY app. I'm going to send a RETSY app with a narrative that says, all you guys do, that highlights how great you are, because that's going to help me in pricing and coverage. But when you have claims, and a big claim, the underwriter wants to know, what have you done different so that doesn't happen again?
Yeah.
And that's huge. I mean, they can overcome, like, they expect you're going to have claims. That's the nature of real estate E&O. And you might have a big claim. You have one claim, okay, stuff happens. But what have you done different? So these are some of the things I talk about. Number one, creating reasonable expectations. Claims happen when people are surprised, right?
Yeah.
So let them know what to expect. When you're, what's the market? I mean, back in the REO short sale days, things are going to take a lot long. Like, let them know what to expect, because otherwise they just get mad and don't overpromise. So set reasonable expectations. Let's see. Let me look at my notes. I'm going to cheat a little. That's cyber risk reduction. Sorry. Documentation.
Yep.
Documentation, the reality is 8 out of 10 lawsuits would not have been if the file was papered. You got to document what's important, right? Disclosure. Top claim is property condition, undisclosed defects. The bottom line is that has been the top claim for as long as I've been doing this. And, disclosure is the issue. The amount of claims that I get that's non-disclosure of something is just, really key. Recommending third-party professionals. This is a real high source of claims. When, what ideally you should do in recommending third-party professionals is recommend a list of 3 at least, and let the client select.
Yeah.
Because what happens is when the agent is involved and the work is defective, who are they going to come against? They're going to come against the agent. I just had a claim come into my office 2 days ago that it was alleged the agent was responsible for coordinating the replacement of the roof based on the Binzer, and the work was to be performed after the close, and the agent hired an unlicensed contractor who actually had his license revoked in 2023.
Oh, geez.
So they have a demand for $25,000 to repair the roof right now.
Wow.
So, those are the things that I have another situation where another large, and these are large claims when the agent gets involved. And that's a tough situation because I get it. I sit with an agent or, anybody that knows something. It's like, okay, can you recommend somebody? And you recommend somebody, and then something goes wrong, and then they turn around and sue you.
Because of the recommendation.
Yeah, we had a situation where the agent sold the buyer a condo, and the buyer wanted the agent to bring someone in to fix the ice maker. And so they brought in a handyman, right, who's not licensed or qualified, using a hot torch, resulted in a fire that spread from the owner's unit to the association common areas and to other units. Damage to the association common areas was $1.2 million. Other units about $40,000, and they, look, these attorneys are going to sue everybody, right?
Yep.
So, you don't have to do anything wrong; they're still going to sue you. We paid out $300,000 on that. So we see a lot of claims with respect to that. Another really important practice for avoiding these claims, and I I know you guys probably do this, is resolve issues as they arise to control the outcome and costs. You know, just like we were talking about that $5,000 issue, solve it then.
Yep.
Don't let it go to litigation because it's going to cost a lot more money. I'll tell you that when this is a while ago, probably 20 odd years ago, maybe even longer than that, I had written a large firm, and, you know, it was just, you had a problem, you know, you had a claim, you submit it to the carrier. It was just kind of the grind, right? Oh, here it is, turn it over. Here it is, turn it over. Here, what happens? It catches up with you. And we went through, the market tightened. You know, the insurance market, sometimes it doesn't matter. You can get a great price even though you have rough losses. But when the market tightens, you see something different. You get a different response. And that happened. And so the premium went up significantly. And the deductible, which, you know, is super important because agents can be responsible for that, I think went from, it was either 5 or 10 to 25,000, which was a lot back then.
Wow.
25,000 deductible. And that caught the attention of everybody. What they did was this. They started trying to solve issues as they arise. And they kind of took, and I don't know if you've heard me talking to John Foltz about it. It was with John Foltz.
Yeah.
You know John.
Yeah.
When you look at claims, there's just certain claims that always happen, right? And it's like you can almost do a template. And it was incredibly successful. I mean, that's key. You know, one of the things that, I mean, the firms that have superior loss experience, they're not doing anything complicated. They're just disciplined about the basics, disclosure, documentation, communication, you know, communicating with that client and resolving issues early. I mean, those are really the key. So, you know, in another area that's really important for agents is, hey guys, if you're out there listening, like when you have an issue, notify your broker.
Yep.
First thing you do.
Yeah.
You know, first of all, look at the wealth of knowledge, like you know what to do. Get that unemotional third party involved, number one, to try to resolve it. And secondly, we've got issues we need to deal with on the E&O policy in providing notice. Because, you know, when you talk about a claim is defined as demand for money or service. It's a lawsuit, demand letter from an attorney, demand letter from a client, a threatening email, could be a verbal threat. So, you know, you're going to find out what it is, and, you know, we need to provide notice. It says a claim has to be reported as soon as practicable, no later than the end of the policy period. So there's things that you and I need to figure out what we're going to do, you know, and if you need to get counsel involved. But then you also have this level of a situation that needs to be addressed where it's not a claim, but it's what's called a potential. And we were talking about that, which is a situation or problem you can reasonably foresee would give rise to a claim. Yeah. So there's no demands, but a buyer-seller dispute. You know, perfect. You know, that happens all the time. If there's a buyer-seller dispute, can you reasonably foresee it might give rise to a claim? Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're subpoenaed for docs or testimony, you know, I actually went to an E&O class myself for insurance education. And it was really, that's where I met my insurance defense attorney there. He was great. But I didn't realize, if I get a subpoena, might I reasonably believe that it could result in a claim? Yeah. Why are they asking for, you know, your files? Or if an agent in a buyer-seller dispute, if they're subpoenaed to come in and testify, you want counsel, and there's coverage for that under the policy. So you need to report that. So, you know, we've got claims and potentials, you know, that potentials need to be reported, because if you don't and there's a claim in another policy period, it's not going to be picked up. So, you know, that's super important as well, because if you don't report, you could end up jeopardizing coverage and end up with an uncovered claim. What's the cost of an uncovered claim? We don't know, but it you know, could be potentially catastrophic. And if there's no coverage for the agent, for the firm. Everybody's going to be going it alone. So, you know, those are some of the recommendations I have on best practices in avoiding E&O claims. clearly you guys have the secret sauce because you're already there.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of the things that you mentioned, I do know that, documentation is very important, very well done by our agents.
It's huge.
It's
we do weekly calls with them. So, I mean, there's the Matthew section of that call of like, hey, don't forget to do this, document this. Even with rule changes, and a lot of agents don't realize how often rules are changing, but our agents are.
Yeah. Well, and I also think it's a good opportunity to be, bring all the agents present to what I'm seeing, because I'll get 3 or 4 of the same issues in a 1 or 2 week period where it's like, okay, we need to bring this up on the call so that everybody knows how to handle X, Y, or Z, whatever that might be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Recommending 3 vendors is a big one. I like that. And I guess I'd never really thought of it from the standpoint.
Make sure we hit on that on next Tuesday's
We
call.
do. Yeah, that's...
Like we have a whole vendor section in Connect. So you're in there. I mean, so somebody types in insurance, right? Lisa pops up. So but the thing is, we can also review them if we like them. And like there's been a home inspection company we've used for a decade now, and their just reviews are getting horrible. So... and it's just like, as an agent, you need to be educated. Who's the vendor? What do they do?
Yeah.
How do my peers at RETSY feel about this vendor, right?
Right.
But recommending 3 is going to be key. We got to hit on that on next rendezvous.
No, yeah. No, I'm going to bring that up for sure.
And I know it's tough because so many agents have relationships with those vendors, or be it home inspectors, whatever. But the reality today with the nature of litigation, I mean, we've had to make a lot of changes in the industry. Back in the day, we didn't have home inspections, right? They were deal breakers.
Yeah.
And, now you don't do it without. Well, that's the nature of litigation. It's changing things, and you really have to watch out for your own interests too. And, you recommend 3 great referrals, and, you let them choose. Not everybody's going to be great. Not every vendor is going to be great for everybody.
Yeah. And
they should really make those selections. I know it's challenging because I know, when I go into office meetings and you get pushback on that. But if your agents buy in, that's great. Yeah. It's tough. It's tough, but it's something that you have to watch out for yourself too.
Yeah.
And another thing that we see is, maintaining a good bedside manner. If they like you, they won't sue you. What we see is, most claims come from buyers, right? Sure, the seller sometimes, but that's usually a situation that's a whole nother story. And if the buyer's not happy, they're going to hire the attorney, right? The attorney's going to want to sue everybody. Yep. But if the buyer loves their agent, they won't let their attorney name the agent. And I've actually heard Rick say that, which it's actually happening. So
we can think of the 3 names that he's referring to. These agents just seem to piss everybody off.
Is that right?
Yeah. It's like they have a target on their back.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a recipe for disaster.
It really is.
Yeah. So things like that, just kind of getting back to the basics.
Yeah. Well, and disclosure is so important too. I mean, it's we had Michael on the podcast, and
I know I listened after you told me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I went and grabbed that one. It was awesome. I loved it.
I mean, I thought it was great, and I mean, it was an hour of like the key takeaway was disclose.
Yeah.
And number 2, I think, was get a sewer scope.
Yes, that too.
But make sure you provide 3 vendors for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But whenever a disclosure question comes up, like I, say, hey, like it's you need to disclose it. And here's now that I have the Michael podcast, I just say, hey, give this, like Perfect. If you haven't listened to this, you should.
Right.
And you should have your client listen to it. And, it's much better to disclose.
Yeah.
And, hey, if the deal cancels, it's easy for me to say. It's not my commission on the line. It's not my house. It's not my plans, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, that could be a weight hanging over the seller's head for 6+ years,
Well, and that's another, thing we talk about in avoiding claims is that red flag. when you have someone that doesn't want to disclose.
Yep.
And I think maybe that you talked about that in the podcast
We
with
did.
Michael.
Yeah, because we had somebody that didn't want to disclose the septic thing where it was like, look, if you don't, I have to.
Right.
Because I'm aware of it, because I think in that situation, she allowed the vendor in to do the work, so she had knowledge of it. So she had an obligation to disclose.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, people don't understand the importance of disclosure in
It's
our
so
industry. And like even with clients, I mean, sometimes you have to guide that conversation. They don't want to disclose a certain item and explain to them the ramifications if they don't, the responsibility and high chance of being sued. It's like, it's kind of like, you can disclose it. I'm like, but then I'll see some disclosures come over in sentences where it's like, seems kind of vague, but you are disclososing it. Okay. So where do you draw that line? Yeah. Creative writing can make something big sound little, I guess.
It's disclosed.
It's disclosed.
And then is it not incumbent upon the buyer to do their due diligence?
Exactly. And I think that's what Michael put so well in the podcast is at the time, if you disclose it at the appropriate time, the buyer then has time to investigate it and determine if it's material or not.
Right.
If they find out about it after the fact and it wasn't disclosed, doesn't matter what it is. It's going to be the most material thing that could have ever been, and they would have never bought the house and blah, blah, blah.
That's what you always see in these,
it's the most important thing where it's like, well, had you known that, I don't know, think of an issue, that the mailbox was, I don't even know where it's
crooked
mailbox. Yeah, like it could be the littlest thing.
Yeah,
it's like,
and it's like a big thing. That's so true. We had one. We just had this claim where I don't know if you guys see this. It's alleged that the agent told the buyer they didn't need to disclose a water intrusion because it was over 10 years old.
Oh.
And then, can I add on top?
Yeah.
And then the agent attended the buyer-seller mediation and didn't tell the broker.
Oh.
Okay, so nothing's known. And then after the agent attended the mediation, the firm received a letter from the law firm for the demand of $85,000 that they settled for.
Wow.
So 2 lessons there, okay? Disclosure and not telling your broker. And going into a mediation, I don't think they were they just attended. It said, and this is allegations. We see the worst part, the initial allegations from the claimant. But you see this stuff, and you're like, why would you tell them not to disclose if it's over?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
No, I don't
disclose.
believe there's a statute of limitations to disclosure there. Like if you have knowledge of it.
Right.
And I do feel like the longer somebody lives in a property, the more, there's possibility that the seller honestly forgot to disclose something. Like, I could see that. And I feel
my favorite's like Arcadia, and it's like, you've lived here for 20 years and you've never seen a single scorpion?
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like,
yeah.
Need little mini polygraphs.
Well, and I think I feel like from the buyer side that a seller non-disclosure is one of the harder things to prove. Prove that the seller had knowledge of it and failed to disclose it. I had a funny insurance story. Our dad was an insurance agent for American Family for a number of years, and my mom called me with one because somebody had submitted a homeowner's claim for wiring that was chewed up by vermin, by like rats in the roof. And obviously, homeowners insurance doesn't cover that. And she called to ask me. She said, "Is that something the seller would have to disclose?" I'm like, "Yeah, if they knew there was like a rat infestation in the house, or like it's a question. Have you ever seen a rat or a mouse or blah blah blah?" And like it's a question in a box on the seller property disclosure statements. And she said, "Yeah, because they called XYZ exterminator company, and they came out and said, 'Oh yeah, we were here before. They've been 6 months ago because the previous owner had this issue.'" I was like,
disclose it all.
I was like, that's a slam dunk seller non-disclosure lawsuit if I've ever heard one, because like if they didn't disclose it and you happen to stumble upon a vendor who helped them with that 6 months ago for the seller,
oh yeah,
like that's a slam dunk. Like they should talk to an attorney. I'm so glad it has nothing to do with me.
Right. Yeah.
But,
and another interesting category of non-disclosure claims is on agents selling their own property.
yeah.
The number one cause of loss there is what? They didn't disclose property condition. Or, I don't know anything about the property and there's no spuds.
Yeah.
The amount of claims like that's a thing. Like, come on, agents, you're selling your own property.
Huge red flag. Anybody can fill out a seller property disclosure statement. I don't care if you've lived there or not. You know more than the buyer does.
Exactly, so. And that's one of the things that I talk about is, you know what, you know the address, you know something, put it in, and then give it to the buyer. Do your due diligence. This is all I know about it.
Yeah, when you bought it.
Don't say not providing it or what is as is.
Well, I feel like that's a misconception too. Is that the spuds are a seller's document. That document is designed to protect sellers and ask every question that could be a material defect in the house. And as long as the seller takes the time to fill it out and answer those questions honestly, they're protecting themselves.
And they probably don't know that.
Yeah, I feel like that's the biggest misconception is sellers think it's to benefit the buyer. And it is, but it's really, I think, legally to protect them and make sure they fulfill their disclosure obligations of material defects.
Right.
Because if you don't fill one out, it's going to be very hard to prove that you disclosed the material defects you had knowledge of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had one where he hydrojetted the house. I got a funny hydrojetting story. And I'm like, why'd you hydrojet it? He's like, because the water was slow and we had a clog. I'm like, you got to disclose that. But just tell me, you had a clog and you had the lines hydrojetted, right? Separate story. I didn't recommend this vendor. But with hydrojetting, you have to be really careful. This company, licensed, insured, bonded, turns out, went over and did a friend of mine's house and couldn't access the sewer line to throw an actual hydrojet. It's just this gigantic hose that just pumps a ton of water and jets the lines and makes them look new. It's like a power sprayer all the way down your sewer lines. So this kid gets up on the ceiling of the roof of the house, finds a pipe that would actually allow the hydrojet to go all the way down to the sewer, right? And then goes down to the truck, turns on the water. Things jetting, and he's slowly going down, gets it all the way down. It's stuck a little bit, so he keeps going, gets it to the sewer, hydrojets it out, and then my buddy shows up home and there's water everywhere in his house.
Oh my God!
Because what happens when you have a clog at the sewer underneath the house and you're dropping thousands of gallons of water through the top? It just went right in the middle and came right out of his sink and toilets and all over the house.
Oh my God!
Yeah, you're gonna have to disclose that in the future, buddy.
Oh no!
I know. I was
that's bad.
But hire a qualified, well-experienced hydrojet company if you're gonna do that. But that poor kid, he came down. He's like, "Well, I know we have good insurance."
Hopefully you'll find out.
They had to have fans on in that house for 3 days straight. It was crazy. It was loud. Well, you guys...
That had to be a lot of water going out there.
Oh, yeah.
On brand new wood floors and Yeah. They took care of the house, though. They did a good job.
Don't do it yourself.
Yeah.
Learning lessons.
I want to make sure we touch on cyber for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Just because that is so big, and those could be huge claims.
That's really the fastest growing exposure to real estate firms, and I think to any firm. You hear of all the breaches and everything going on. So, real estate transactions are a target for the cyber criminals because of the large amounts of money being transferred. That's why they're constantly trying to get into your systems. The common cyber claim that we see and have seen, it's really, started, I'd say, maybe about 7 years ago. I remember dealing when we had COVID, and I remember cyber really, that going on. So, probably the last 6-7 years that's really it's come onto the scene. But it's a funds transfer fraud third party where the agent's email is hacked, and then the fraudster sends the fraudulent wire instructions to the buyer. Buyer wires the funds to a fraudulent account. Money's gone. They come after you because it was your breach. It was the breach of your system, your device, and these are six-figure claims. I mean, think of the amount of money that's transferred. I've also had a situation where, so this is where the buyer's spoofed, and what's different is it's their funds that are lost, not yours. So cyber usually covers if you're spoofed, social engineering or phishing into wiring your own funds, but your primary exposure is these buyers, your third parties, so you need special coverage for that. I had a claim. I've only had this once, but it was really interesting. In the agent was spoofed into. So I think it might have been the escrow agent. I don't know if it was title or escrow, but they reached out to the agent. The normal rep was on vacation. So the email purported to be from this title or escrow company saying, hey, I need to get a hold of the buyer. Can you send me the contact information? So the agent sends the contact information. It was a fraudster. And then they emailed the buyer who wired the funds to a fraudulent account. Money's gone. So the agent was spoofed. Mention that, like, watch what you're clicking on, right? Watch your emails. Look at those, email addresses, because it looks like it might be from your, title company, escrow, but there might be a difference. I mean, everybody should be looking at that.
They're getting really good. I mean, I know we had a invoice sent to our CPA. It looks like it came from me. Says Chris Morrison. Yeah. When she clicks on it, it actually said Chris at RETSY. And I'm like, I didn't send it. And she's like, I know it doesn't sound like you at all because it's way too polite. I'm more or less like, hey, can we get this paid this week? She's like, I'm like, I don't know how they did it. Send me a screenshot. She did. I'm like, I have no clue how they did it. I'm like, do me a favor, like hit reply. When you hit reply,
different email.
It was Chris at retsy.xyz.io.
There you go.
It was like,
that's crazy.
Like,
so now
it's. But they spoofed exactly that. But I mean, we've talked about this in the past where it's like, there's an app called Spoof Card where it's just like, I can, like we both know Steve, right? Like, I can call you and spoof his name and his number and all that stuff. And it'll show up on your phone like he's calling you, but it's me.
Yeah.
And, like, this is what we educate all of our agents. Like, if you get a call from me and it doesn't sound like something I would ever say, or it's insulting, or I'm asking you to do something weird, just hang up and call me back immediately. I'll never hold offense if you hang up on me.
That's going on too. Yeah. It's like, it's everywhere you turn. Ransomware claims. We're seeing, I had my first ransomware claim for, it was a firm in Florida. They were locked down for 48 hours.
Is that covered under cyber? Ransomware?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. And they had cyber coverage, when you have cyber insurance, not only are they the insurance company, but they're there as a security. Like, they're monitoring your systems too, like you're monitoring, but they're monitoring for vulnerabilities. Like, when I go get a cyber quote, they do a cyber risk assessment. You get a grade. They tell you your vulnerabilities, so you know where the issues are. Because I have some firms where they say, we can't quote you. You need to resolve this vulnerability. Yeah. And so it's not just insurance. It's bringing cybersecurity protection. And the first thing that happens when you have that cyber claim is, and you report it, they're going to get forensics involved, because we need to know, was there a breach? Like, who's breached? Yeah. So you do get, there's a lot more to the table than just cyber insurance. But on the ransomware, that claim, they were up in 48 hours probably because they had cyber insurance. Because I think there was a firm in California that was locked down for a long time. I mean, that would be, that's a problem. And I told you I saw that class action lawsuit. But, what's interesting is that when I talk about cyber insurance, there's oftentimes I get, we're all of our information's in the cloud. But the cloud, they're breaching your system, with their, email theft, compromised devices, the phishing. You click on something, they breach your system. It's not everything's in the cloud. They're getting into your system and getting what they need. I had someone that said to me the other day, well, the title company will take care of it. I've had claims where we
All
didn't
these
know.
title companies are on like PC platforms, on shared servers.
They're not
and it's
stepping up in a
no,
cyber
like,
loss.
Every single hacker, every one that we've gotten lately is like the latest one's the whole like, I want to book an appointment to talk to you about buying a house, and I'm only available via Zoom. Here's the link, but you can only access it on a Google or Microsoft device. It's like totally fake. I mean, like you click on the link and essentially they hijack your
There's so
Android
much.
phone or your
Yeah.
computer. But yeah, there was a service we were looking at adding to Connect. It's like a third-party security software where it's like it looks at your IP address and your pattern and stuff and knows whether it's really you that logs in. Like I'm about to leave to go overseas and I can't access RETSY Connect because I have every country turned off but the United States.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's like there's different protections you can do, but I use like Google Firebase for authentication. So kind of figure if Google goes down, we're all screwed.
You guys are so far ahead, though. I mean,
Yeah,
most people aren't. You know, you talk about risk mitigation for cyber.
Yeah, I would love some tips on.
So,
what
you know,
agents
some
can
of
do
the things
there.
that we talked about, first of all, you got it from a negligence standpoint, you got to talk to your buyers about wire transfer and let them know what's going on, to be cautious before the transaction's done. If you don't tell them, how are they going to know?
Yep.
Right?
we have a document for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, AER has the wire fraud advisory, which we require on every file.
Yeah.
But getting it
Nobody
signed,
reads it, though.
that's the thing.
Well,
is
that's
getting the client to sign it is one thing versus having these conversations.
Exactly. You got to talk to them about it because just them like they're signing so many papers that they
Yeah.
do what I do is just sign. I'm not reading anything.
Yeah.
But you know, don't ever email wiring instructions.
Yeah.
Making sure that your buyer is verifying the wiring instructions either in person or at a verified phone number that they have before,
Yep.
right? Use MFA.
Multi-factor authentication.
And you know, we've been talking about MFA. There's a lot of cyber carriers that will not quote you if you don't fully implement an MFA. The challenge that we have is our agents are independent contractors.
Yep.
So you can't make them do anything. I had a firm in another city that had, within 1 week, had 2 breaches where the buyer wired each time $300,000. 2 breaches in 1 week. That firm did require the ICs to implement MFA. You know, it just, any website I go to, it's MFA. And so, you know, it just seems like we've got to get our devices secured. You know, look, your primary exposure is the agents.
Mm-hmm.
You can control your exposure easy.
Well, the majority of our agents are in a Google ecosystem that we can control. Like
That's
every
amazing.
once in a while, we'll have a login from Algeria, and it knows the agent just logged in Phoenix, you know, an hour ago, and it just locks them out completely, right? And then we have to
Yeah.
reset it. But you know, there is that whole like a lot of agents like to use their team email addresses, right? Which is just like the Wild West, uncharted territory.
Well, that's the thing. You know, we talk about, you know, use your website or your email address, not Google, Yahoo. Well, that's hard. You know, practice email, but I mean, cybersecurity is tough. You know, we should have. I had to do continuing ed for insurance. I had to take a cyber class, cybersecurity, and I had to do it for Alchemy.
Yeah.
We had to take cybersecurity. I think every agent should have to do that, and learn. You know, you got to understand the exposure, and not just, you know, put your head in the sand and act like it doesn't exist, and then end up, you know, they've got clients that they're dealing with, and you guys are exposed.
Yeah, we almost need to come up with something in our ISA that forces them to turn on two-factor authentication on their personal devices. Like, it is vitally important. I mean, we have ourselves really well protected within our suite, but like, it's what's outside of that suite. Remember, one of our agents got hacked, and I'm like, cool, I'll resend you your password. They're like, no, it's not that RETSY email address. And I'm like, well, Like, I'm not responsible for Pro Soccer Player 1964 at yahoo.com. Like, I have no pull at Yahoo. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but that said, it's like, it's important for them to know that, be educated on it. You just have to look at everything. I mean, you and I were sitting here. I had like 4 or 5 people on the naughty list of like just trying to spam me with like, now,
Scams.
the new scam is like they send me calendar invites for renewals for stuff. And it's like, and it gets past everything and lands on my calendar. And then what do? I go right into my AI tool. Like, how do I block this? And went into the Google settings, blocked it for me, and then blocked it for everyone with an @RETSY email address.
Wow.
So they're all protected.
Yeah.
So
We need to be using that.
we're getting close on time. So anything else you want to add?
No, anything else you want to add, Lisa?
Well, I mean, I'm talking to some of the best in the business, so not a lot to add there, but just I think just
One thing I'd love to ask is like, what types of insurances do you sell and you specialize in, and how do they contact you?
Oh, thank you. That's very nice. So I do commercial property and casualty. So I really specialize in the real estate space. Handling all the insurance for real estate companies, because real estate companies are very unique because you have agents that are independent contractors. You're out showing houses, and so you have different exposures for E&O and general liability, and then employment practices, things like that. And so it really, in coming at it, I started just doing E&O, and I just grew a book of business that I had good client relationships, and that was one market. It's like, no, I want to be a broker. I want to represent my clients. I want to be able to access the E&O market, and I want to be able to write the BOPs and the other lines. And so that's really in our wheelhouse, and in making sure you get the right coverage and competitive price. And so we do all lines of commercial property and casualty. And you can reach me at it's Lisa Robinson, Pinnacle Insurance Consultants. My email address is lisa@pinnacleinsuranceco.com. lisa@pinnacleinsuranceco.com. So
We'll have our team link that in the show notes.
Thank you.
So people can get a hold of you.
Yeah.
So we really appreciate you taking the time and coming in and like educating everyone on. I mean, I know we meet all the time to make sure RETSY is like on board and we have everything that we could possibly have for coverage. But it's a great episode because I mean, I know a lot of our broker friends in other states and stuff. I mean, they listen in on the podcast.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of them do not have cyber.
Right. And we miss the best part on top claims, so we'll save that for another episode because those are kind of the horror stories where people. But,
to be continued.
But listen, I really enjoyed our conversation, and thank you for the invite, and it was great to be with you guys, and you guys are pretty awesome, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
That wraps up this week's episode of the RETSY podcast. Thanks for listening. Check out the show notes to connect with Lisa. If you enjoyed today's episode, take a moment to leave us a review wherever you listen to this podcast. And please subscribe so you never miss what's next. Next week, Chris and Matt are sitting down with Austin King, founder of Rafter House. Here's a sneak preview.
You go from buying a house for $200,000, putting $150 into it, to a $3 million spec in about a 4-year runway, and it was like, whoa. And then it got to the point where all of a sudden we have a bunch of luxury homes, and so we successfully had made that jump from Lower Arcadia. More affordable houses back then to playing in the big time and proper and knocking homes down, and that was kind of a stressful time, like making that jump, and all of a sudden you're looking at the cost to build and the cost of debt service and everything, and I was like, oh, okay, like